Hey everyone, Josh, Fresh Run Fishing. Today we're going to take you through a little jig tying tutorial. I've already painted these heads and oven cured them at 350. You can literally take a hammer to this head and beat the crap out of it, and the lead will mark up and indent, but the actual paint will pretty much stay intact. All our eyelets get cleaned after we paint them. I take a clothespin that is the diameter of 20-pound test, and as you see, it goes right through the eyelet. Makes it easier for the fishermen. I hate getting ready to tie on a jig and having to clean out an eye for 20 minutes. So we try to make that a little easier on the fishermen. Simple vise I use, it's an Odyssey Spider vise. You can get one of these for about $85–90. Rotates. You got to put it together when you get it, but it's pretty simple. I'm no rocket scientist. So we're going to start with our thread and talk a little bit about this jig. This jig has a little raised barb, and then a barb holder for plastics also. Before we paint this jig, we take a pair of pliers, every one of our jigs, and we press that barb down. That stops the hair on the jig from flaring up. There's other ways, of stopping the hair from flaring up, but I don't like a jig that's flared like that when we're fishing for walleye and perch. Using a Danville 210 denier flat waxed thread today, and we're going to start. We start our jig by wrapping over the thread and getting a little base on the collar. Snip off the excess, hit the garbage can, and set to go. We're going to tie a two-colored jig today. The purple and black, really big around here. For people who fish the Oneida Lake area. One of the keys that I've found throughout the years tying is that you got to have good bucktail. Now this bucktail I have right now isn't the best, a little crinkly, but it's not too bad. If I can, I like to touch the bucktail in my hands when I'm purchasing it. If you get it online, you're paying $5–6 for a bucktail. It's a crapshoot. So if you can, try to go to a place where you can feel the bucktail and make sure it's not too ratty or nasty. So we've snipped off a piece, very thin piece, small piece of bucktail, because if we get too much bucktail on it once, then it's going to compromise our jig. The jig will fall apart. It won't look great. Your collar will look like crap. So I measure up to the length I want my bucktail to be, and loosely get a couple wraps in, then I bang it down 5 or 6 times. We got the first part of our hair on. Most tyers don't do this. They say it's an extra step, not needed. Here at Fresh Run Fishing, we try to make sure that your bucktails can be used until you lose them in the rocks. Our hair is not going to fall out. We crank down pretty good. Our collars are a little bigger than some people. Not too big, but they are neat and they still look good. So we got a little super glue on there. And now we're going to tie another side. We tie our jigs, and usually a one-color jig is going to take 3 or 4 parts. A multicolored jig obviously is going to take more, just because we got to tie the top and the sides and the bottom and get that all in there. So on this second one, the second wrap down, I really crank down on the thread. I'm turning a lot more than many tires, and I don't think it's overkill. I mean, I've fished lots of jigs, and I like that little extra security that we have here. I want to bring this camera up to you. Okay, so we've tied this first and second piece of bucktail in. And my camera's not cooperating with me, but you can see it from the bottom here. We're kind of sparse on it, but not too sparse. So right now we've got two pieces of bucktail tied in. The top and the sides are pretty well set. I can see the side facing me is a little thin, so I'm going to add some more. A little at a time, guys. That's the key that I've found to build a stable jig and a jig that moves nice in the water column. Now you can make these jigs thicker, and based on the amount of bucktail that you have on the jig, they're going to fall slower with less hair, less bucktail, or sorry, with more bucktail. They're going to fall slower. With less bucktail, they're going to fall a little faster. So if you're one of those guys who is on the bite and you can tell what the fish are doing and how they're reacting, you might want a bucktail jig with more hair so it falls slower, or less hair so it falls faster. Once again, we're cranking down pretty good on that thread. I will sometimes, you know, as long as I've been doing this, I will sometimes still break the thread because I'm cranking down a little too hard on it. So our top's in. Now we got to tie in the bottom. I love this rotary vise because it lets me get right at the bottom of the jig. I can angle, get a nice nice tie on that. I take my bucktail and I break it into pieces. And I think it's easier when you do so to find a right length of bucktail, a right thickness to cut. So we're gonna try to cut out a decent amount, but not too much again. And I'll show you what that looks like. That's what's gonna go on the bottom of my purple and black bucktail, about that much. I gotta thin it out so there'll be a little less more. You probably can't really see, but on the top we're wispy. So I thin those out over the garbage can. Just loosen up the grip on the bottom a little. I usually tie with white against my jig on the background so I can put it up there and make sure all the hairs are even. I'm going to measure up. We measure up and cut clean. And I use fly tying scissors. Some guys use regular kitchen scissors for bucktail. I find that if the scissors are serrated and have teeth, they cut bucktail a little better. So for the bottom, we're going to get a couple little wraps in, loose, not tight, just to secure that color. And then I'm going to spread it out a little with my fingers. I'm going to turn the vise so I can see it. And one thing you need to remember is when you're tying, we're always moving the thread away from us, and that's going to push the bucktail down the hook or the base of the jig body a little. Okay, so we're there right now. We've got our purple on top, our black on bottom, and we just got to hit this other side off with it. Wispy at the top. Happens a lot black. I don't know if it's the dye that's used by the people who manufacture these bucktails. Measure off, and I measure right up to the base of the head, and it seems to tie in pretty neatly, and it gives your hair that little extra space to wrap. Okay, I did my loose. I got to pick all the hairs that are not long enough for this jig out. I just kind of pull them. A couple more loose. Make sure it's in there right. That looks good. Now if I went real tight right here on the base where the thread meets the bucktail, that's going to start to flare out, and that's a personal preference of mine. I don't like that flare out. I don't think it gives as good a action or as realistic an action when you have all that flare out, because we're trying to imitate minnows here. As I said, my collars are a little thicker, a little bigger than some people, and I do that on purpose to secure that jig. One more drop of super glue we'll add here. Let that set for a second. Some people can tie jigs in a minute. I decided when I started doing this that I wasn't going to supply the market with that type of jig. I wanted something that is durable, that you can have confidence with. Hence they cost a little more at the store, but if you're planning on fishing these all day, you're going to want something that stays together. Right now I'm adding flash. It's just crystal flash. I get this from Mad River Dubbing. Good stuff, fairly inexpensive. I just add 2 pieces of flash, and I'll show you how I put it in right here. I tie 1 piece, right here's the flash, and it's going right, it's splitting that black and purple, kind of like a silver line on a minnow. And I've tied 1 section in, and I leave an overhang right here. And what I'm doing now is I'm pulling that overhang back and tying back over that. That secures it in. There are other ways to secure it in, but that secures it in simply, and it's not going anywhere. It will break before it pulls out. Okay, just pound home a couple nice strong wraps. We're just about done with the tying process. Cut the crystal flash. I cut mine just a smidge, I mean maybe 1/4 of an inch short of the bucktail. I don't know why, that's what I've done my whole life, so, and it works. We use a whip finish tool. Six usually. Go around 6 times with it. And I always go around again. You don't have to. We've added super glue in here. When I tie flies for trout, sometimes I don't even whip finish. I just use super glue and wrap around, and that cements it in. We do have another step. This is Sally Hansen Hard as Nails, but it's really not Sally Hansen. It's half Sally Hansen hard as Nails and half something else. I make a little concoction. When you're a fisherman or you make lures, you're definitely a mad scientist. I've mixed up more paint colors than I could think of. Half of them come out like crap and I end up wasting paint, but that's part of it. Now you can use just Sally Hansen, you can super glue, but this will secure right where you cut that whip finish off. Also gives a nice shine to the collar. I've taken a little longer. Usually it takes me about 5 minutes to 7 minutes to tie a jig. I've taken a little longer so I can show you guys what's going on here. But that doesn't include the time that it takes to put the eyes on. To bake, to powder paint, you know, to clean up the lead. Now we're going to add some eyes. I get these eyes from 2 places: Walleye Supply and also from Crawdads Tackle, depending on what size I need, who's got availability of the product at the time. You can just take these eyes and stick them on. They will stay. But like everything else, I want it to stay all day, stay forever. So I'm going to take my vise out of the way. See the inset socket right there, and the eyes. These eyes are they're soft, you know, 3D eyes. They're not super hard. There's a little jelly like, I don't know, little jelly like action in them. And what I do is I take a bodkin and I stab the eye very lightly, and that'll lift it off of the plastic. You can see where I took that eye from. Then, as I said, I could just stick it on the lure and they will stay. I don't know, I want that extra security though, really do. I want our customers to be happy too. So I add a drop of super glue. Now I'm going to take this, boom, stick it right there. This is a 6mm eye, which works good for 3/8, 1/2, and 5/8 ounce jigs. Right there the eye is. You can see my collar a little better there. That eye isn't going anywhere. Let that sit for 5 minutes, and if you try to peel it off with a bodkin, you're going to have a difficult time. See how I poke that eye right there to hold it? Yeah, it leaves a little mark in the eye, but it's the easiest, quickest way that I found. And then I just set that right there. And if you're like me, you might have some difficulty doing this. I shake bad. I shake. So it makes it a little more difficult. And there's the other side. And there's our two-toned Oneida Lake Special. Purple and black with a little crystal flash jig. The collars, like I said, we make ours a little bigger. I can do them smaller. I can make a jig with 10 wraps total, and you barely even see a collar. But I like this security, and I don't think it affects the effectiveness of the lure. You guys got any questions, you can hit me up on YouTube. Anyone wants to custom order some jigs, hit me up on YouTube or Facebook. Shout out to a couple local suppliers that carry our product. East Shore Bait and Tackle in Oneida Lake, right in Sylvan Beach. Booth's Bait and Tackle, Anglers Bay, and All Seasons Sports Shop up in Pulaski. Get 'em.